Tori Petry, Mike O'Hara, and Tim Twentyman here in Allen Park, and it is time for our annual season review series where we look back at the prior year and kind of break down everything that went on. We will do these in a series of segments. We'll start off with offense today. So, gentlemen, we have talked about the offense a little bit so far on DetroitLions.com. Obviously, the big news about the offense was the Lions parting ways with Bob Cooter. They elected not to renew his contract. Why do you think that ended up happening this year?
Well, I think it was probably a difference in philosophies. I think Bob Cooter had a different vision for the offense. And a good soldier called the plays that they wanted him to call. And obviously the head coach, Matt Patricia, wanted more of a controlled offense. He likes a controlled game both on offense and defense. And I really do think it was a mutual parting. His contract was up, and there were reports immediately that he was looking for jobs other places.
Well, I think you just look at the numbers, 25th in scoring, 20th in passing offense. There was a regression there in the passing part of the offense and the scoring, and so that played a factor as well.
And just one other thing I'd like to add, and it's kind of misleading, the points that they scored in 2017. They had 7 touchdowns on returns. That goes into the pot, but it's really not part of the stew.
Certainly. Well, Tim, you talked about it. The Lions' numbers on offense certainly weren't where they wanted them to be. Of course, Matthew Stafford's numbers weren't either. What did you think went wrong with the offense this year?
Well, I think there were a number of things. That back injury, I think, affected him a little bit too. And then you look at the second half of the season, his starting running back, Kerryon Johnson, goes down. Golden Tate is traded in late October. And look, Golden was a security blanket for Matthew. He had 90-plus catches the 4 seasons, his first 4 seasons here, and kind of was that guy on third down. And so I think they missed that. And then Marvin Jones Jr. gets hurt. And so, now you're playing with a backup cast of characters. And look, Matthew played through it. He never complained about the back injury. Yeah, I think he was hurting, and then you lose all those skill positions. I think that took a toll on him ultimately.
Yeah, it looked like Survivor Island, really. And you look at T.J. Lang, played only six games, 6 starts at right guard. Rick Wagner at right tackle missed some time. And the shuffle of tight ends. He never really had a number one tight end. I just thought it was probably tough to get any rhythm. They had backups playing the backups at wide receiver near the end of the season. And I really think this might eventually come out, but maybe it won't. I think Stafford was injured more than he ever let on, and maybe we'll find out.
All right, well, we've talked about what went wrong on offense. What do you think that they did well? What positives can they take from the 2018 season?
Well, I think they improved their rushing offense, and I think they showed they can be a team that can rush. And it's not just Kerryon Johnson, too. After he went down, they were pretty good running the football to end the year as well. And I think individually, I think Frank Ragnow's going to be a pretty good player. I think Kenny Galladay in year 2 proved that he can be a pretty good player, 1,000-yard season. And then when they lost Golden and Marv, he had some good performances there. I thought he stepped up, showed he could be number 1, number 2 type guy. And then obviously Kerryon Johnson averaged 5.4 yards per carry. That was second only to Aaron Jones in Green Bay. I think he's a terrific young player, show that he can catch the football as well, be a 3-down guy. So I think there are some positives on that side of the ball.
And let's not forget Zach Zenner from the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State in Brookings, South Dakota. But really, I think he may have solidified his future with the Detroit Lions. I mean, we'll see. You never know. But really, he had some really good moments. One, carried the load in that road win over the Arizona Cardinals, and then in the last game against the Green Bay Packers. Look, I didn't see the Packers put an awful lot of zest in their defense, but he had 21 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown, and also a 30-yard catch and run. So I thought Zach really showed some things, and I think Matt Patricia spoke pretty highly of him after the game. He's not really one for singling out players. That's sort of the New England Patriots style, unless it's Tom Brady. But I thought Zach really did well in that regard.
With Zach, too, he's probably one of the hardest workers on the team. He's also, of course, special teamers. I think he's just one of those guys that every team likes on their roster, right? Can do everything, does everything the right way. He's a professional. I certainly could see a situation where he's here and part of that running back rotation.
Yeah, I like to add a guy, too, and I don't know where he fits, but Andy Jones, I kind of like guys like that. 6'3", 205, 215, whatever he is. Had a couple of catches, had a couple of drops, but played terrific on special teams. He really did.
He set up that block on Zenner's run in Green Bay. He can do some things, sure.
Well, the Lions needed guys like him to step up late in the season. I mean, after Golden Tate was traded and after Marvin Jones went down, this offense was hurting, and they needed some of those reserve guys to step into starting roles and play big parts.
How about Brandon Powell, week 17, too? You know,
Right.
look, this was a team, once they traded Golden Tate, didn't have a lot of guys that were kind of run after the catch type guys. I think Brandon Powell showed that in week 17 that he could be one of those guys, make some plays after the catch, and I think that's important.
Yeah, when you talk about meaningless games, there are people who play that last game, or the last part of the season, where their career was on the line. I'm not talking about old, but just young guys trying to start a career. And Brandon Powell, who made the roster, was on the roster for all 17 weeks, all 16 games, finally got a chance to play and showed something. He's worth looking at in 2019.
Well, I definitely think the Lions' run game was something that Matt Patricia wanted to emphasize, improved after this season ended. And when I talked to him, he wanted to emphasize that it wasn't just the running back. Of course, Kerryon Johnson gets a lot of attention, but he was very proud of the run game as a whole and their ability to make it happen with both Kerryon or Zach Zenner, whoever was there.
And just one thing I'd like to add, too, you talk about building depth on the offensive line, and a couple of guys in different years, Joe Dahl 3 years ago, 5th-round draft pick, and then Tyrell Crosby, I'm sorry,
I got you.
5th-round pick this year, I think showed that they might have a future there as depth players and maybe potential starters in whatever role they have.
Well, and to Patricia's point, too, I think the run game was still successful after Kerryon Johnson left. I think you wrote about it. There were a number of 100-yard games. I think they averaged over 100 yards after he went down. So it's not just a running back, it's a run game. And I think that's what they proved that they're kind of starting to build.
Well, certainly a lot to improve on from the Lions' 2018 season on offense. We'll be back in just a few days with a look at the defense.